there's a hoof bone, the black bone, and it is the hair was cut off of the animal's hoof, and it went clear up to the knee joint, and that it was the tendon was cut off, and the big bone was removed. That that tendon was used as a food source with the buffalo hoof, the dew claws that were on each of the buffalo hooves. And after the hide was removed, that there's no meat on a buffalo hoof. This was a delicacy to people. They dried the entire hoof, and with the black hoof still attached. And once they boiled it and cooked it into a soup, they usually the honored guests would be invited to eat of this, and they cooked it with corn, and you had to cook it for a long period of time, 6 to 7, maybe 8 hours, because it was the tendon had been dried, or if it was fresh, you wouldn't have to cook it that long. And the elders would that were invited, that were honored, would get the hoof. The little kids would get the dew claws and the soup and the corn. The Cheyenne name for that is hihisnametst. That means that's how you say corn and hooves and corn. That's how you that's what it's called. After the elders would eat the insides of the hoof, they would set it aside and to be used later. And there were 3 bones inside of the hoof. One is a sharp one that fits inside of it. That one we didn't use wasn't given to a child. The other ones resemble a horse and its colt. And as an elder chewed off the tendon, there's no meat in a hoof because their hooves freeze in the wintertime. After he would eat all the tendon off, he would call a child and say, "Here, I am going to give you a horse, a mare, and its colt." And they would hand the 2 bones to the child. These were the toys of the Plains Indian people. They bring back memories. They always honor the person that gave them to them. So these toys also remind us that other peoples throughout the world use the bones of certain animals to depict the toys that their children played with. The Mongolians are the same way. They use the bones from one of their livestock, probably the goats. And so that particular toy brings me to a story of an elderly woman that had a stroke. And she asked if I would come to visit her and help her. She wanted to go home. And she was in a hospital. And I didn't know what I would say to this woman, because she was a very sacred woman that had been through many of the sacred ceremonies. For some reason, I took the the hoof bones with me, put them in my pocket, and I went to see her. As I went into her room, I could see part of her face was hanging down, and she couldn't move one arm. She tried to smile at me, and when I walked up to her and grabbed her hand, I reached in my pocket and pulled out these hoof bones. Right away, she started to smile, and I placed the hoof bones in her hand, and I grabbed the other hand that she had no movement in, and I placed them on top of each other, on top of the bones. And she started to smile and would wipe her mouth, and she started to tell a story. She said, when I was a little girl, my grandpa, when he would eat hooves, he would clean them real good after we cooked them, and then he would call me. And she said, he would say to me, here, I'm giving you a mare, and it's colt. And she said, I used to ride them, and I would put them in my hand, and they would almost buck me off. And she started to laugh. This story is really inspiring, you might say, to many of the children that were raised in this era, because it was such an honor for an elder to give you that. It brings back memories. It brings back good times where there's a feast and the elders are there, because it is basically our duty to always honor the old ones, to always treat them good. And I always loved the hooves. And after the elders left and went to sit outside to drink coffee, I would take the hooves and the black parts, and I would eat the soft parts of the hooves that were left on their plates. So I would chew that part off. They were used for different things. And Randall will tell you about the black parts.
The black part of the hooves before you, those are the bottom parts where the buffalo walks on. Those are made of keratin, which is basically just hair, but stuck together really well. But they are the exact same material that the horns of the buffalo are made of. These pieces can be shaped in many different forms. They were used for many different things. They can be reheated in water and shaped into any shape you wish. But normally, they were used for dancing. In the olden days, we had need for lots of things that created noise. You know, we had drums, we had flutes, we had whistles. The whistles were more of a ceremonial thing. But we also had tinklers or janglers or whatever you decide to call these noisemakers. But they were the ends of the buffalo hoof or deer hoof. And they had a hole drilled through them, and they would be strung on cloth or some type of buckskin. And you would have a long line of these things that would kind of jingle like bells. That's what these old dancers would wear in the olden days. So anytime there was a buffalo that was gotten, there was always somebody there that was excited to get those black parts of the hooves so they could carve them and they could add it to their dancing regalia so they could look fine when they're at a next get-together with the tribe. Any dances or anything like that? Decorational uses too? They used to tie them on the lances when they would go to war, these buffalo hooves, the black parts. It would add a nice decoration to it, and it would give a nice sound when they rung together. It would make this hollow clinking sound that was very liked back then. But they had many uses, mainly as toys and as personal adornment. So you can use your imagination to what they would be used for.